evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. As you can see, the beer I have today, La Belle Acadienne. This is actually one of 3 beers that my niece brought back. She went home to New Brunswick for holidays, and she brought me back 3 different beers. The first was a blueberry ale I had a couple of weeks ago, and this one is the second. So I'll just give my glass a quick cold water rinse as per usual. Crack it open, we'll pour it up, we'll have a look at the can, see what information we can get from that, talk a little bit about it, and go from there. Alright. So, it's a brown ale, as I'm going to tell you in a second, and obviously from pouring it up, it's definitely brown. I'm not sure how the lighting is from your end. So it's not as dark as a stout, but it's definitely dark. And pouring it in, actually you can see the brown in it. Once it's poured, it's actually pretty dark. Pretty strong flavor there, or sorry, aroma. And you put it up to the light, yeah, I'm not sure how well you guys can see it. But up to the light, you can see it's pretty well brown. Alright, so we'll look at the can, see what information we're going to get out of there. La Belle Acadienne, which is basically the beautiful Acadian, the Acadian Peninsula in New Brunswick. The name of the brewery, again, this is a French beer, so I'm going to use my French, which is really, really bad. So any French people, I apologize before I bastardize your language, but bear with me. The name of the brewery, Brunswick La Belle Acadienne, basically means that's the brewery of the coast. Craft brewery, and they call it Acadian Nut Brown. It's 473 mils as per normal, 5.5% alcohol. And then they got a couple stories there. Product Canada, return for refund, keep refrigerated, typical. Alright, so there's 2 little stories here. The first one, it says, La Belle Acadienne is an original and one-of-a-kind beer that stands out with rich and distinct taste. It has a solid and strong character, just like the women who built our precious Acadia. This beer honors those Acadian women who are at the heart of our families and the survival of the Acadian nation. So it's a salute to the Acadian women. And the other side of the can, it says, our shores represent a special place for the people of the Acadian Peninsula. Summer and winter, the sea and the beach call us, and so does the unique taste of our beers. We are the Brunswick La Belle Acadienne, and in brackets, brewers from the coast. So there you go. It's okay, I poured it up. Definitely, it's a brown. I had a little bit of head there, not much. It actually smells a little bit like a stout. And it actually tastes a little bit like a stout. I haven't had a lot of brown ales in the past. To be totally honest, not what I was expecting whatsoever. I was expecting nothing wrong with being like a stout, but I was expecting not as much. It's not thick like a stout, but the initial taste. To me, it's got almost like this smoky flavor of a stout. Not all stouts, but a lot of stouts you get that smoky flavor. I'm getting that from that. Not as strong as a stout. And like I said, I wasn't expecting it to be anything like a stout, so I'm quite surprised. So just talk a little bit about it again. This is the beautiful Acadian from the brewery of the coast, 5.5, and they call it Acadian Nut Brown. And they say it's a brown ale with light hazelnut and caramel taste, with slight sweet and slight hoppy finish. So there you go. Now, I'm not really getting the hazelnut. Like I said, I'm kind of getting the smoky stout. It's different. Just looking online, the brewery itself, it's kind of hard to track down exactly when they started. There was a group of friends back in 2012. They came up with the idea, but there was a process they went through. I think they at one point they were 2 years, producing their beers. So I believe it was around 2007 before they got out of production. So it was about 5 years between the initial idea and production. I think they actually even might have moved once since then to a bigger facility. And like I said, I think they were 2 years perfecting their beer. So it was a process for them. Not a lot more I could get from the website. That's the gist of it. Some different beers, and most of them, they're a nod to the Acadian Peninsula, which is to be expected. All right, and just doing a little bit of search on brown ales. Brown ales, it's a broad range of beers, basically, that are brown in color, but it's a really broad range. It's hard to say, what is a brown ale. It's kind of like, a wine being a red wine. It's a really wide range. The roots of the brown ale in general, it comes from Britain. However, pre-1700s, with the processes they were using at the time, all ales could be considered brown ales, other than your really dark stouts. So it's a name that covered a whole lot of beers. I think the first time the term brown ale actually came was mid-1700s, and after that they started getting paler malts in the process. The kilning process, they were actually made like later beers. But the brown ale was kind of like, it was always known as more or less a worker's beer. In the mid-1700s, the Industrial Revolution perhaps is slowing down or ending. I'm not sure the exact dates, but paler beers kind of took off. Your industrial worker, they were becoming less common and more office-type workers. And office-type workers, for whatever reason, they were more inclined to go to the paler ale. So it kind of went down. But with many beer types, in 1990s, around that time, the craft brewery started taking off, specifically in North America, and a lot of craft breweries, they actually took on to the brown ales, and they kind of helped reestablish the brown ales and a resurgence to get it back on the market. And you see a lot of North American breweries, they'll have their own brown ale. Okay, so for the Belle Acadienne, or sorry, the La Belle Acadienne, excuse me. Give me my rating. Like I said, it's not quite what I was expecting. I'm in between. I'm definitely going to finish it. That's without a doubt. But it's no less than a 2. Somewhere between 2 and 3. I think I'm comfortable giving it a 2.5. I don't think I'd go out of my way to have another one. I'd say a strong 2.3 at a week 3. Sorry, a strong 2.5 or a week 3. I think I'm going to stick with the 2.5. I'm pretty sure I will finish it, but I think it's going to take me a while. It's I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess. It's not a bad beer by any means, and the weekend's coming up, so by all means, if I was going to say pick one up at your local shop. However, I haven't seen them here in Newfoundland, but anybody's in New Brunswick, pick one up. Tell me what you think. You might find them throughout the Maritimes. I'm not really sure. I'd love for somebody to pick one up and tell me what you think. You happy with 2.5? If you're a stout drinker, by all means, pick one up and tell me, do you think it kind of reminds you of a light stout? It's not heavy by any means, like it's thick as a stout, but something else just before I finish. I know the last couple of times, if you notice my glass, actually I'm going to zoom in there. This is actually kind of neat. I've noticed my last couple of beers that I've done, the glass as I'm drinking, you're getting the marks on the glass from the foam of the beer. And I actually mentioned it before, it's known as lacing. And that's actually a sign of a clean glass. If you have a dirty glass, you're not going to get the markings from the foam of the beer, from the head of the beer. So there you go. I just noticed that, and actually, since I put in my my glass rinser, I've noticed that most beers. So I'm giving the giving the glass another quick cleaning before I pour it, and I've noticed I'm actually getting quite a bit of lacing. So there you go. I mentioned lacing some of my earlier episodes, and I've noticed the last couple of beers even more so since I put the rinser in. So there you go, folks. That's my review for this week. 2.5 for La Belle Acadienne. I hope somebody picks it up and they let me know what you think. So there you go, folks. As normal, until next beer, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.